Yeah. All right, we're calling the meeting to order. We just finished closed session, and there's nothing to report out. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Roll call.
Director Rolfe.
Present.
Director Odette.
Here.
Director Diamond.
Here.
Director Hetherington.
Here.
Director Stevens.
Here.
Okay, any special orders of business? Does anybody have anything? All right, how about modification of the agenda? Does anybody want to modify? All right. I'm going to read the Speak Your Piece reminder. Pay attention, be aware, and attend to the world and the people around you. Listen, focus on others in order to better understand their points of view. Be inclusive. Welcome all groups of citizens working for the better good of the community. Don't gossip and don't accept when others choose to do so. Show respect. Honor other people and their opinions, especially in the midst of a disagreement. Be agreeable. Look for opportunities to agree. Don't contradict just to do so. Apologize. Be sincere and repair damaged relationships. Give constructive criticism. When disagreeing, stick to the issues and don't make a personal attack. Take responsibility. Don't shift responsibility and blame onto others. Share disagreements publicly. Okay, now's the time for public comments. Anything that is not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment? Anybody on Zoom? All right, doesn't look like it. Consent agenda. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'd like to pull the tab 7, medical insurance benefits. And I'll make a motion to approve the other 11 items.
I'll second that.
Director Cat. Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Hetherington.
Yes.
Director Odette.
Yes.
Director Diamond.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
You can call me Director Housewife. It's okay. I was going to say. Okay, number 7.
I'm good with all of it. I was just wondering, I'm on Medicare now, so it wouldn't affect me. But I'm wondering, looking at what other districts offer, most other districts offer medical, dental, and vision. And I would like us to consider having dental and vision for the directors, to come back to that. I'm putting it out there. It's like we can't change it. We could adopt this policy and then come back in January if the board so inclined, and they could amend it again. But I just think, finding people to run, there's every other agency that I've seen offers all 3. So I'm just putting it out there. As I said, I'm on Medicare, so I'm
Never understood why it's separate, meaning when I was at the fire board, we were on the same insurance as the firefighters, so why is ours separate?
So the agencies that offer medical insurance the same as their employees, they offer the CalPERS health benefits plan, because CalPERS is one of the only health benefit offerings that recognizes board of directors as employees of the district. And that's all medical, dental, and vision. We are not on the CalPERS health insurance plans. And Blue Shield and Principal and VSP doesn't consider you guys employees.
I had Blue Shield at the fire department. I don't know how.
The
And that was a
CalPERS
long,
is-
long time ago.
Yeah, CalPERS is the administrator. They have Blue Shield as the contracted health insurance company.
They're with, I asked this years ago, they're in special district SDRMA, which is another public entity that does medical and dental vision, and they're providing it for the employees, but not for directors.
Mary's not wrong in my experience. But
We
it's not
can
a lot
look
of
at-
money either.
We can look and see if we can get a plan from CalPERS and just offer it to the directors. Can we do something like that? They're typically more expensive. It's not the same rates as what we have for our small employer plan for our employees.
Thoughts?
I would be curious to know fiscally what impact that would have on us, whether it was through CalPERS or whether it was on the private plans and adding that. If it's negligible, then I don't see why not.
If I did it through my employer, it's like $100 a month for all of it, dental, everything. It's like not much. But it's also very limited on what they pay.
Right.
We have $99,900 budgeted per year for medical insurance coverage for the board of directors. It's $100,000, as it stands now.
Yeah, I think adding those, from my experience, for 5 members, I agree with Teresa, it's not a very large expense, I would say. We could certainly research quotes on that, and if it is negligible, we could certainly go ahead, and if the board wants to move forward with adding those, we can certainly do that. I don't anticipate it would be very much.
Fine with me. If it's not a big deal, then
Vision and dental, those aren't big policies. The medical's the big one. Right.
So does Medicare cover dental and eye? Oh, it doesn't, okay. All right. Rick, what do you think?
I'd like to know what the numbers are. I'm
Yeah.
prepared to prove it as is with some investigation of what we want to make a change.
Okay. Yeah,
We could bring back the numbers at the January meeting, and you all can vote on the final quote that we have to add those to.
okay,
I don't imagine it'll be much, though. Yeah.
okay. Great. Okay.
Make a motion to approve tab 7, and they'll be coming back in January, but we can approve it as is, so that those other aspects of the 100% coverage for staff and regular part-time are covered under this policy.
Okay.
second.
Director Rolfe,
Yes.
Director Odette,
Yes.
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Heatherington,
Yes,
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yes.
sorry.
There are a lot of new faces around who have never heard what I'm about to say. So I'm going to say it this way. Years ago, 20, 25, 30 years ago, we served on the board because we loved the airport. We got $100 a month. Hey, which same y'all get right now. We never considered getting medical benefits. And then one year, a couple of directors said, "Ooh, hey, we can get some dough here," and said, "Okay." So then everybody got every board member was allowed to get the medical bennies. Now, one year, 2016, before the board put a cap on things, one of the directors got $38,800 of medical bennies, while the single guy, Jim Morrison, got 6,000 something. And I remember, it's like, holy Toledo, that's more than 6 times this single guy over here got in medical bennies. And now you talk about dental, vision. There are enough people out there in various organizations, all wanting to suckle off the teat of the airport. And now it's like, oh, gee whiz. Wow, hey, I'd like to have that, some dental and vision. I think it's nuts. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Tom. I apologize for that lapse in order, but thanks for pointing it out. Okay, on to action items. Final budget approval.
So we have some slides here, and Kelly has some highlights in the staff report to talk about changes from our last budget meeting, our last board meeting, to this final prepared budget. And so if we could pull up the staff report, it probably covers the highlights of the changes between the two, and I will turn it over to Kelly for comments.
Good evening. So I just want to go through a few changes since the last iteration that we went through last month. Took into account your suggestions, so you'll see the 2 million wildfire mitigation community benefit, the 200,000 additional TTCF community benefit, and that also being worked on in conjunction with the update to PI 311 that we want to look at in January, or first quarter, I should say, of 2024. We actually received the actual Department of Labor numbers for the CPI increase for the hangar rents. So I had originally budgeted 4% and it came in actual at 3.2. So we put that in there. And 70% cost of goods. So we increased that to reflect the 100% staff commitment that we have entered into. And then one more capital item, 140,000 for 2 electric powered GPU units, as we're working on our other commitment in moving away from gas or diesel burning engines and into more electric possibilities. And those were the main changes. Did anyone have any questions on any of that?
I have a question that is not, I don't know. The $2 million in wildfire money next year, we don't have anywhere to spend that yet. So does it just get lumped in if we don't spend it to the net income at the end of the year?
Mm-hmm. As any expense would, yeah.
Okay, that was it.
Question?
Just a comment. I'm in favor of improving this budget, but I'm going to comment that the $2 million for wildfire mitigation community benefit, when we talked about it before, I was in support of it. It's the biggest danger we have sitting right here, wildfire in this district, but there's no details, and before we spend the money, we need to figure it out. That's all my comment is.
Just along those lines, Rob, what would, so assuming we pass this, what would be the next steps on that?
So for the wildfire mitigation line item of $2 million, the next steps would be I would have follow-up meetings with the fire chiefs for this region, North Lake Tahoe, Truckee community, along with other CAL FIRE type entities that are in the fire management world. And the Forest Future folks at the Community Foundation are the initial folks I've met with, identified a loose outline of a structure of how money might be programmed. and put a lot more detail behind that and be able to bring back a detailed plan of a focus for that investment, a criteria of how it would be reviewed, much like our agency partnership type of program, and how that money would be distributed. So I'd bring that back ideally in January, at the January board meeting. The next 2 months essentially gives me, I believe, enough time to have those meetings, put together a comprehensive plan, and brief that back to the board of directors with those entities that would be involved with helping prioritize and decide the distribution of those funds, so they are specifically directed towards things that the board would identify as priorities for wildfire mitigation. Planning, actual work on the ground, as the two main priorities. Monitoring would be the third one, probably. But my plan would be over the next 2 months to build that plan with the appropriate agencies and partners and bring that back to the board of directors for review and approval so we can move forward on it.
Thank you.
I had questions and met with them and feel like I'm ready to go.
Is there any public comment regarding the budget? Anybody on Zoom? I don't see anybody. All right. I'll take that as a win. Motion.
Yeah, I would like to move that we approve the fiscal year budget 2024 as presented.
I'll second it.
Director Rolfe,
Yes.
Director Odette,
Yes.
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Heatherington,
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you. Nice job, Kelly. Okay, moving on. Policy Instruction 311, update, adding fly safe and fly quiet incentive.
One question, though.
Oh, you do?
Well, just,
Oh.
it's not budget, but it's just an annual report, kind of that whole summary of the year, kind of.
Yep, I was going to talk about that with my
Later.
report later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Is this you, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So this, we've been talking about this for pretty much the past 6 months, and so tonight
Jeff.
we're proposing it for approval.
I hate to interrupt you. Can you just clarify why I'm here now and I wasn't
Yes,
before?
no, good, okay.
Or Josh, you're online. Do you want to discuss that?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So
Our legal
members of
counsel,
the
Josh,
public-
right.
Members of the public will remember that Director Diamond had previously recused himself from this discussion. That was based on my advice and an abundance of caution due to a potential conflict of interest. We requested advice from the Fair Political Practices Commission, which is a state agency responsible for administering conflicts of interest. And they provided advice that Director Diamond does not have a conflict in this case because the net change that's currently being proposed is less than the $500 threshold, which would create a conflict. I'm happy to answer any questions.
And I'll just add to that, we've been wanting to talk about this starting in May of this year. And so we have delayed a number of the conversations. Then Director Diamond recused himself from the conversation. So so the board moved on. We moved on with community outreach. And so Director Diamond is back here in person for the first time as we're talking about it for approval, just to give a wider context, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
So what we are proposing tonight is an update to Policy Instruction 311. And ideally, the approval would be to modify the existing Fly Quiet program, establish a Fly Safe program, and remove the home basing program. For some context, we began doing the outreach. We had 5, I would say, major events, but we talked to approximately 65 local pilots and tenants, probably another dozen plus community members, both with online forums, in-person forums, evening in-person, weekend in-person. Myself, Mark Lamb, David Van Quest probably individually took probably another dozen questions, comments, phone calls, emails, lots of dialogue across the wider body of knowledge. In general, the Fly Quiet program has really good support, I would say, across the board. If you're a pilot looking at this, you're like, I get an extra hour on each end of the 10 p.m. to 7 p.m. If you're a community member, the view is, wow, you're closing it, and it's going to be quieter because it's 10 p.m. to 7 p.m. Because in that shoulder hour, it's a really, I'll say, a quiet noise admissions procedure. We've had lots of dialogue. We've implemented the Fly Quiet procedures we're talking about. If you go to page 3, Lauren. So during that shoulder hour, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and 10 to 11 p.m., you can depart to the north towards the Scales, or you can depart to the south towards Brockway. These are the same procedures Mountain Lion uses. They're our most active user in that shoulder hour window, though we didn't call it that. And we get very few to any noise complaints if aircraft fly these procedures. Through engagement with the pilots, we added a corridor over Interstate 80. So if you're transiting into the San Joaquin, if you need to get over the Sierra Crest, however, the restriction would be that you would do so at 8,000, no less than 8,500, which is a visual flight rules hemispheric altitude. Or if you're transiting to the east, it would be 9,500, and no jet traffic during that shoulder hour window. So it's Fly Quiet 1, Fly Quiet 2, just become this Fly Quiet procedure. Lots of support. Pilots like it. It gives more flexibility, particularly in the mornings when winds can be an issue during the summertime. Community members like it because it truncates local traffic until 7 a.m. and to 10 p.m. So it really broad support across the board on this. There have been a couple comments, but most folks look at it and go, what's there to not like about it? I don't mean to overstate that, but from one of our most active exec hangar tenants with multiple aircraft, and like, what's the downside to this? So I think this is a big win. Lauren, if you could go back to page 2. I'm going out of order here, I apologize. So the first in this motion, let me start from the beginning, is number 1, home basing, would be to discontinue the program, and at high level, the incentives we offer with Fly Quiet and home basing for your average T-hangar tenant are about $1,140 because it's based on square foot. About $1,140 per year is the discount your average T-hangar tenant receives annually. What we are proposing between the Fly Quiet and the Fly Safe is it would go to about $1,200. So it would be about a $60 increase. However, there's also a CPI increase. And the current incentive programs have not increased since they were established. It's been 4 cents a square foot, and it's been 4 cents a square foot since about, I think, 2008. So the size of the incentive program over the years has gotten smaller. So in general, for the average T-hangar pilot, the incentive goes up a little bit as well. So the first piece for number 1, home basing, would go away, with the logic being there's nothing in our strategic plan in terms of providing incentive to have local aviators register their aircraft for those funds to go to the Nevada County, Placer County general funds. Does the airport get some of that? Yes, we do. It's very, very hard to quantify. Regardless, anyone that owns an aircraft, no different than anybody that owns a car or a boat, has to register your car someplace. So if they don't register here, then register wherever you so choose. So that's number 1. The second item that would be for approval would be the establishment of a Fly Safe program. We've talked about this a lot. If you scroll down some more, if you look at the big picture, it's partnering with the FAA. The general aviation accident rate has decreased slightly over the past 30 years, but nowhere near your regional carriers or your legacy carriers. It's almost at zero in terms of the accident rates for 135, 121. So the FAA created the WINGS program to provide the general aviation recreational pilot a framework to do their own continuing education and their own pilot proficiency, because otherwise you have to kind of go out on your own and figure out how to do it. So it's partnering with the FAA. It's a free program. We would not be providing training or education. You could almost say it's a training program. I use that term very lightly. Putting on my professional military hat, what we're really saying is we're providing you an incentive for a hangar attendant of $840 a year to go out and do more robust training. But we're calling it a safety program, so I think for the general public, it's a better way to capture that. So partnering with the FAA Wings program to do that. They have a tracking mechanism, 3 knowledge credits, 3 flight activities per year. And the way we were proposing it is if you do your 3 knowledge credits, you can do it in person, you can do it online, you can attend webinars, you can do seminars, there's literally 1,000+ topics if you go to the website and you can just sign up. If you do your 3 knowledge credits, your 3 flight activities, which is you fly in the air, you can do all 3 flight activities in 1 flight, but you're doing that with a certified flight instructor. You earn a phase. If you earn a phase under the Wings program, that is the equivalent of a flight review, which then extends your private pilot's license by 2 years. So the benefit of the Wings program, if you're a private pilot, is I do the knowledge credits, I do the 3 flight activities, earn my phase credit, and I get my license renewed. There's also a number of insurance companies that offer discounts to this. In the outreach to the pilots, we had lots of good feedback. I would say initially some consternation. I think as we talked through it, more and more and more, we garnered more and more support. What I am proposing too is that we expand it beyond just the Wings program. The Wings program is predicated upon 2 pieces: continuing education and flight proficiency. There are other programs that a number of our pilots belong to that already meet that or exceed that. There's a Cirrus Pilot Proficiency Program. There's a Baron Piper training program. And if you are a PC-12 pilot, that aircraft that's just below what's called a type rating, in that 5 to 12,000-ish pound wet range. So PC-12, which was one of our most active turbo aircraft on the field. If you're a PC-12 pilot, you have to have what's called the 6158 certification. And your insurance, unless you're flying professionally, requires you to go to the simulator twice a year to spend 2 to 3 days at Flight Safety International, et cetera. That far exceeds even what the FAA Wings. So what I'm proposing is we establish a Fly Safe program. FAA Wings participant earn your 1 phase per year if you're a 6158 and you're going to simulator twice a year. And then with, I'm using the word approval, I use the term lightly, but if someone's going to do the Cirrus Pilot Proficiency or the Piper Baron, there's a couple others out there. But if it meets the continuing education and flying with the CFI once a year, and they can show that to us, that we approve it, and they would receive the discount. The other piece to the program that we're proposing is very similar to the pilot talk that started a couple years ago, but for the non-hangar attendant, if they want to participate, they could get $300 a year, and it would not be a payment to them, but it would be a payment to their CFI, because if you're a private pilot, you need a flight review every 2 years. So if you're doing the minimum required per the FAA, so if I'm a private pilot, I need every 2 years, every 24 months, I need to go have at least 1 flight with the CFI. What we're asking, if you want to be a member of this program, is you have to fly with the CFI. However you skin it, ultimately, you're flying with the CFI at least once a year. That's where that $300 benefit, when you kind of do the math, it probably pays for around 2 hours of flying time. And that would be for the non-hangar attendant, with the caveat being that they are flying here in some form regularly. This program is not perfect. Lots of conversations. We could wait to have everything in the absolute perfect. I think what I would advocate is we're in a position, if this is approved with the funding, starting with the FAA Wings and adding some of these other programs on, that we can adjust and grow this. I'd also say, and I'd like to say it on the record, that I think this first 12 months to perhaps 18 months, that we will have to, the district, and from a staff management perspective, there will have to be some flexibility as we onboard people and learn through this, because it's a new program. And also, speaking very honestly, the FAA Wings program, when you go to their website, it is a bit antiquated. When you talk to the FAA, they fully realize it. They have a working group. They're working with industry, a large number of CFIs around the country. The FAA is looking at updating their Wings program as well. They're very well aware that it's a difficult system to navigate. So I think we will have to have some flexibility in that. I'm just referencing my notes. If you go to page 3, again, I already mentioned the public, the outreach. Keep going. Right there, those are the dates, plus a whole bunch of one-on-one conversations, emails, multiple emails with some members of the community and some of our pilots, lots of phone calls, lots of sit-downs. But in general, once talked through, fly quiet, it's like, sure, makes sense. Fly safe, after talking through it and talking through the nuance and the detail, I think solid support as well. Being honest as well, there's a number of our hangar tenants that are not a fan of the home basing program going away. They would like to keep it, but it's a great discount for doing nothing else than registering your aircraft here. And there's no, if we provide a discount for home basing, it's not furthering the goals of the district, our vision, our mission, or our strategic plan. I think at the time it made sense for what was going on, but for where the airport or where the district is at right now, it would make sense to get rid of that. We're also offering this financially incentive programs that are a little bit above that. Also speaking very honestly, I want to make sure the board and everyone knows, instead of going with a square footage discount, this is a flat rate discount. So what we're proposing here is $70 a month, which is $840 a year. So if you're renting an executive hangar or a small team hangar or a super T, it's $840 with the logic being it's behavior we're seeking, whether you're flying a PC-12 or a loud Cessna 180 tail dragger, it's the behavior, whether it's the quiet procedures or the fly safe procedures. So it's a flat rate. So for the T hangar tenants, of which we have 190, it's a little bit of an increase if they did both programs. If you're an executive hangar tenant, you would see a decrease in your discount. Instead of it being 3, depending on the size, because there's different classes and different square footages, but they would see a decrease of about $1,500 to $2,000 a year in rental discount. But they get a large rent discount because they rent so much as well. Some of them upwards of $3,500 a month. I will stop there and take any questions.
All right, Rick?
I have been on this board for 7 years, only one left. And I'm very impressed with this presentation and your thoroughness of going about it. It may not be perfect, and I'll ask questions all the way through it when we do, but I think this is the most thorough presentation that I've seen in 7 years on this board, and I support it, and I want to commend you on the work you've done. It's Director of Aviation, good job.
Thank you.
And that's my comment.
Can you go back to page 3? What I wonder about in this, and this certainly does not apply to my airplane, but if we think about eastbound aircraft during the shoulder period coming in presumably at VFR at 9,500, that's, if it's a higher perform, maybe a Mooney or something like that, that's a lot of altitude to lose from the scales to the airport.
Yes.
Is there anything that we could have in here about descent, an exclusion for descent so that they could set up a safer approach?
It's a great question. I will say from what Mountain Lion does when they do this, they fly, just for everyone's awareness, starting on the left side of the graphic, the blue line over Interstate 80 towards the agricultural station, aka the scales. They do a big wide towards Stampede over the reservoirs, a very low, shallow descent to set themselves up so they are not descending near around the airport environment. So they go out over the reservoir. They do a big 270 slow descent to come in, but we could talk to that, and or with a lower power setting, we could write something to, you can descend over Interstate 80 to set yourself up on a 3-degree glide slope.
Landing on which runway?
So it would be landing.
Obviously not 29.
Yeah. No, you could land on 20 or 29.
You wouldn't be able to land on 1-1 or,
Yeah,
Right,
you could not land, so you would not be able to land on 1-1.
okay.
So,
So they're coming around and landing on 2-9.
okay, I think that would be.
yeah, right, so, oh boy, that's a long way. Flying, we could write something that you could descend, protect, to put yourself on a 3-degree glide slope to 2-0, 2-9, or 0-2. What mountain lion does very regularly is when they hit the scales, they come out here, they do a big 270 slow descent, get themselves established kind of all the way in.
Okay.
But I think we could address that through outreach. And the other piece too for the fly quiet, and a lot of pilots have brought this up, and sometimes like, well, if I did this, you'll get me. And there's no intent. We're not going to go out and monitor pulling up ADSB tracks. I think, not saying this is a green light for people to go do this, but if there's a noise complaint, or, we're going to look into it. And if someone's violated this, then, it's in here, no different than the current flight quiet, then you're removed from the program for 9 months. And during that 9-month window, you need to follow these protocols, et cetera. And if you do that, then you can be readmitted to the program. So,
Okay, yeah, the other comments that I had about it, I following what Rick had said, I like it for a few reasons. One, that it is absolutely in line with our mission statement and our strategic plan, and I do like seeing action taken from those things, because I sometimes feel like organizations put a lot of effort into these things and then shelve them, and so I appreciate that. I also think on the safety issue, if you think about it, everything beyond providing a slab of surface for airplanes to depart and land on, everything we do above that is because of safety, right? We do the tower, we do the lighting, we do everything that we do because we are trying to increase safety. I do see this as a natural extension of that, and it is taking that concept of safety from just the operational, the airport realm into the aviator realm. As an aviator, I like the idea of having this. I do share the concern about the piggybacking on wings. My personal experience with wings was a real head scratcher in terms of the value of that. I understand the statistics show that wings participants are generally safer, but that could be a self-selecting issue there. So and then I think also on that, going into the innovation aspect of our strategic plan, if we can use this plan in partnership with the FAA to maybe even to help improve that program and then have that filter to other airfields, I think that would be fantastic. So yeah, thank you for your work on this. I think it's as you said, it will definitely be something that needs to be molded as it's being developed, so we find out how to make this thing work. But generally, I think it's a really good start. So thank you.
Sir, if I could pick the two items with those comments. The FAA is super excited about this. We'd be the only airport in the United States to have a partnership like this. So the FAA is very excited about making a test bed location. The second piece, and the budget's already approved, in there asked for an increase. And one of the big feedbacks we got in line with Director Diamond's comment about the FAA Wings program is it can be clunky. There's some really good stuff. Beyond the actual content, it's how to find it and navigate it. A lot of the feedback we got from pilots and CFIs was if you could do more in-person, high-value, tangible events here. And so what we're trying to do with our outreach is to once a month have some type of high-value content presentation here at the airport. And then ideally on a quarterly basis to have some type of event where we'd have a guest speaker, whether it's for a day or it's a clinic. There's a number of organizations that do it. AOPA does some of these events, Cirrus, Pilatus, there's lots of organizations, but to bring someone in here where we would really reduce the price to it and just lower the barrier to entry to get some very high quality training for our local aviators. But lots of feedback from our pilots is like, if you could provide that, that would be fantastic. And you approved it in the budget, so that it's not in this paper. That is part of our intent of blending this together and also making it easier to navigate the Wings program.
Thank you.
I think it's great. I'm glad to see it happening. In terms of what you showed with Mountain Lion and their ability to do that, that might be one of those high-value content monthly for him to, for those pilots to talk to the other pilots, to say, we can do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would
And
be a
for
great one.
talking to Chris Barbera, they're absolutely willing to help.
That's great.
They're very supportive of this entire program.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work pulling this together. It's taken a while, but I'm pleased to see it happening.
I just have a comment on the process as you rolled this out. I've attended a couple of the outreach opportunities, and what I really like to see is you taking all the feedback in such a calm way and so diplomatic, and then the next presentation you've already incorporated and answered questions, and I think, that's a huge amount of time to spend to do, but I think it was super productive, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, is there any public comment?
Thank you, Madam President. Somewhere in the myriad documents that the airport produces, I read that one of the driving forces of the board is equity. The home-based program was initiated to create equity between home-based aircraft hangar tenants and tenants who base their aircraft elsewhere. Now the home-based program is going to be discontinued, and by doing so, it is discontinuing equity by the board. It seems that equity is going down the toilet. Never was the home-based program supposed to be an incentive to fly quiet. It was always about equity. Now, in looking at the shoulder, the page 3, the shoulder no-fly zones pictorial, it came to me that flying a right downwind to runway 29 is recommended, but I knew it, but it's like, all of a sudden a light bulb came on. Again, I found an item that should fall under the heading of YGBSM. I surveyed a number of other instructors, and the general opinion is that doing the right pattern is correction. Doing the right pattern 29 is nuts. One instructor wrote that the procedure could be flown by the varsity team. One instructor was ambivalent because pilots wouldn't be required to do it. Thinking about that viewpoint reminds me of the circle to land 29 procedure being optional, but apparently 5 pilots weren't on the varsity team. During my full-time instructing career, I completed 50 private pilots, and every single one of them had night landings on all 4 of the runways here using published pattern procedures, but applying different runway lighting and landing lights configurations. Therefore, sometimes driving up to 8 landings in a night on all 4 or in the mix. That totaled more than 300 landings here at night. In the very unlikely occurrence of my flying during the shoulder time, I would never fly a right downwind to 29. Never. I would only fly the regular left pattern, even if it were 3 a.m. My safety is my priority, and I recommend that you remove the recommendation for pilots to fly the right downwind 29 during the shoulder time. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
clarifying question. Was it YGBSM? What did that mean?
I mentioned that in the previous meeting, and since you're asking, it stands for You Gotta Be Shitting Me,
Oh,
okay?
thank you.
Not that you were here for that meeting, but maybe not.
Could I just make a comment? Mr. Meadows is correct, and I think there might be a miscommunication. Lauren, can you make the graphic larger over the runway? So we've incorporated what Mr. Meadows said. So for runway 29, what he's saying is a right traffic would be flying. This would be the left traffic. The yellow dotted line is for circling. There's certain times of the year during the shoulder hour, if you're flying the IFR instrument approach, you can't circle to the south of the runway. So that's what the dotted line is depicting. But right now, it's left traffic to 29 is published, what we do every day. And the original graphic, when we rolled this out, this was all solid yellow where I'm pointing right here. And per feedback from Mr. Meadows and a number of other instructors said, I highly recommend that we expand it to allow for left traffic to runway 29, which is what pilots are used to, and so we have incorporated that.
So you've already addressed what you said.
Yes, and I think Mr. Meadows attended one of the prior meetings, and so we've incorporated the feedback that we've received, and so that was a feedback, and we have incorporated it. So I just want to make sure that we're not miscommunicating, but we've, per Tom's feedback, we incorporated. It wasn't just him, but afterwards talked to a number of pilots and then talking to David Van Quest and pulling the peat maps. We get very few noise complaints in this quadrant over here. There's a lot of residents. It's a very low population density. You know, it's 80+% second homes. Your home, sir, is more over here in the yellow. This is more some of the very northern properties of the North Star area.
The only other question would be the videos that we have on our website, are we going to be adjusting those?
We would need to adjust them to better accommodate this because, you know, the shoulder hour and some different things, so we would have to make some adjustment, not just there, but in multiple locations, so.
Do we get a lot of people looking at those anyway? Is it worth reflying them, or is it just to remove them?
I don't know. I will talk to Mark to see if there's a way. In fact, we're talking earlier today, there's certain parts of our, jumping into a rabbit hole, certain parts of our website, we know when the pages are viewed and open. There are other parts of our website, and so we're going to do some outreach that for whatever reason, we don't know if they're viewed or not. And I don't know if it's a setting, I don't know if it's an HTML language. So some pieces we get fewer traffic on and other pieces we don't. So that's a great question.
Okay. Did you have something else?
No, I was going to make a motion.
Oh, I just want to make sure there's no other public comment. Is there any online? Okay.
I move to approve Policy Instruction 311 to adopt the new Fly Safe and Fly Quiet programs and discontinue the home basing program effective January 1st, 2024.
I'll second it. Do you want to second it?
Nope, it's fine.
Director Rolfe,
Yes.
Director Odette,
Yes.
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Hetherington,
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, item number 16. Wait, oh no, sorry, we're on 15. Okay, updates. Does anybody, we've all read the updates. Does anybody have anything they'd like to highlight, Lauren or Jeff, from your reports?
Yeah, the housing meeting was mostly housekeeping in nature, where we reviewed the executive director of performance evaluation and policy and procedures, and we also reviewed the agencies draft reserve and investment policies and provided feedback to Heidi. It was a relatively quick meeting.
Great. River revitalization, Jeff, any highlights?
There was a East River walking tour, Truckee River, multiple venues at the time because it's a Brown Act committee, et cetera. But so I got to walk the river with a couple of the town planners. It's very interesting seeing the complexity, particularly on the East River side, which is more encumbered by Union Pacific and where the rail is. And it was fascinating to me. There are multiple $4 million properties right next to dilapidated. It's been the same owner for 50 years. It's gone to the family. We don't even know how to get a hold of them. So it's a very eclectic mix of land use over there. So lots of potential, but there was no decisions. The town council did it. The Truckee Town Council did approve the contractor to onboard a consultant to help create an action plan for the revitalization plan. And East River PR is going to put out some talking points to communicate with the community. To foot stomp, it is not relocation, it is revitalization. But this is not the town has no intent to uproot and move people out. But how do we holistically as a community revitalize this corridor? So.
Great. Okay. Rob, did you want to highlight the ACT meeting?
Yeah,
Oh, no, I'm sorry, not that.
the
CTA.
Climate Transformation Alliance, CTA, meeting, had a community meeting this last month where they reviewed the Accelerator project and the 6 nominated projects that submitted for review by an independent panel. It was supported by the CTA board. The winners of that competition were selected. The primary winner was the North Star Community Service District, which presented a project labeled Wood is Good. And that is a project where they were seeking to improve the economic viability, economic impact, and overall effectiveness of removing and repurposing forest biomass in order to reduce wildfire risk and restore forest and watershed health. So they were building a bioenergy facility there in the community service district, and their project was selected as the winner of the accelerator competition to address the biomass in the forest in this area. The second place winner was a group that submitted a project around addressing food waste diversion in the Truckee Tahoe community, and it was a project that would address 3 main areas. That was dealing with providing potentially a sample segment of a in-house food waste dehydrator, kind of turns it into not a dehydrator, but it's a loamy system that turns it into compost, essentially, you can use on your garden afterwards rather than throw it in the trash. Another component of their project was getting worms as a way of decomposing your food waste as a test bed for several community homeowners. And this is all focused on individuals in the community, renters or owners, of how they deal with food waste and diverting food waste out of the landmass. The last one was backyard chickens, essentially, with dealing with food waste as well. So they were the second place award winner, and they're developing their plan of how to move, both of them are developing their plan of how they're moving forward with their 2 projects. That's the update. It was a good turnout for the event, and I think everybody enjoyed the evening and the update on what the Climate Transformation Alliance had been doing for the past year. There'll be some additional slides we'll add from that presentation to this board package after the meeting.
Awesome. Okay. Yes. now's
Next.
the time.
Item 7, TTSA, land exchange, et cetera. How are we doing on this? You're doing surveys, or have we gotten rid of all the obstacles and we're really trying to figure out the final of this?
So on the general manager update, item number 16, there are several updates in there. The last update in that item was the land exchange with the Truckee Tahoe Sanitary Agency, TTSA, that the board approved earlier this year. Over the course of summer, we both engaged Auerbach Engineering to do surveying on site for the property, so we can determine the exact final boundary lines, so we can submit that to do lot line adjustments. And surveys are complete, and we are now in the process of meeting to review those lines and the survey designations, so we get an agreed upon exact definition of where those boundaries will be. And I imagine we'll go through that on paper over the next 2 months, and early next year, I imagine we'll be filing to address that exact recording of the easement and the recording of the lot line adjustments.
So you think this is like done in the first quarter of next year?
I think the first quarter next year, we should be final and filed with the county.
Okay, I just wanted to send an email to the woman at the FAA who I met in Maui last year, who got a lot of this started. So I'll patiently wait for that. Thank you.
Okay, good question. Thank you, Rick.
Okay. Yes, so going back to the previous item, we skipped ahead a little bit. It's okay. The December 13th ACT meeting, does anybody want to attend? Who can attend that ACT meeting?
What is it, what's the subject?
Yeah, so in line with what we've been talking about, the FAA is putting on they've put together a class and seminar they're doing around the region. So it's from the FAA safety team, the FAST team. They're going to talk about accidents in the Reno region over the past 12 months. They're specifically going to talk about the accident at the Reno Air Races. They're going to talk about winter weather, and they also have an expert talking about how to prepare for a winter survival situation should you have to ditch your aircraft. It's worth 2 FAA Wings credits.
Wow. Are you gonna do
And we're doing it, the intent is to do it here in person with the 2 speakers we have coming from the FAA.
Oh, in person? Okay.
In person.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so it sounds like Director Diamond is attending.
You want to do it?
Yeah, I'll do it. Good. Sure.
Great.
Okay.
Look forward to seeing you.
Okay, General Manager's report. We've all read it. We asked a question. Are there any highlights, or does the board have any questions about Rob's report?
The other highlight, I would say, is just in case folks haven't known or aren't aware or just tuning in online, is that runway 220 is completed and open as of the 16th of this month. So we're very excited and happy about that. So we're in full business again. The other updates on here, on the first graphic, you'll see there in the beginning of the report of our primary goals for this fiscal year or budget year. Other than check marks that things were substantially complete, the arrows represent the first one, fuel farm pump upgrade. We are probably 80% done with that at this point, and have some finalization of turning the power on once it's fully wired, which is in the process of doing right now, in order to increase the power there so we can increase the pump capacity. So when we fill trucks, and those 5,000 gallon truck full of fuel out of the big tanks, it doesn't take an hour. We can get it down in about 15 minutes. So we're at the final phases of that. And I imagine by next time we meet, we'll be complete on that in January, certainly before then. Master plan and airport layout plan, we're at the final point where phase 1 of the master plan draft has been completed with all the attachments, appendices. We're getting ready and we'll be prepared to submit that to the ADO office of the FAA probably in the next month or so here. And we will, in order to follow the board's guidance about seeking feedback for a tentative runway 1634. So we're at the point where we're almost ready to do that.
I thought we were, a
And the
question.
board's already authorized that. We've been holding up on some of it there are some additional reports that were finally being appendices to go with it. And we're timing that to address some other pending issues going on as well, so we're not overlapping things in front of the ADO office at once. So I think those should time out to be about a month from now. We should be submitting that as directed by the board already.
Yeah. I thought we weren't going to submit till some of those other issues had been resolved, which could put it into mid next year.
If that's the
That-
case, then it will be a little longer. I'm just anticipating will be hopefully sooner than later, right? But
But
we're
not-
prepared now with all the final documents.
Next month, we're not submitting. You said that, and I don't
Yes, the
necessarily
other
agree with
tripwire
that.
would be resolving other issues that we have in front of the FAA AD office right now.
Okay.
Right.
So
But
that
all
won't
the
be
final
submitted.
package of the material to submit is complete from Mead and Hunt, and so we're happy to have that all ready to submit pending other Part 13 issues that we have right now that we're working to resolve with the ADO office. Yes.
Okay.
To be precisely clear, you're correct, Mary, yes.
Okay, just for,
The other two items that we have on here in the social category of our 4 focus areas, home basing, we talked about that, and Fly Quiet, that was passed today. So we'll be adding a check mark to that. And the last one is part of your approvals today, we're adding 2 different sections of policy 311, which is our community benefit policy. In January, I expect to bring that back again to the board of directors to begin the discussion about some other areas in our community benefit program that are not covered in one policy in 311. They're in 2 or 3 policies or don't exist in policy. So we'll be bringing that back to the board for further discussion as we look at policy 311 holistically, I would say, and see if we can incorporate these various other policies that address how we do community giving into one policy. And so more to follow on that, but we're inching towards that with today's updates to policy 311 to include Fly Safe and Fly Quiet.
Okay.
And that is the highlights, pending questions.
Any other questions for Rob?
Are we doing financial report separate?
Following my comments, we'll do AVCOM report and financial report, yes.
Yeah.
For monthly financials.
Is there any public comment on Rob's report? General Manager.
And maybe the last piece of that, if there's no public comments, is that starting in the new year, we've been, for the board meetings themselves, we've been doing a hybrid meeting for some time now, following COVID, where we have not just recording and broadcasting these meetings, but they're also done in a hybrid format where we have online participation. And I think we're the last public agency still doing any form of that. And what I would recommend is starting the new year, we move back to our traditional format, which would be a live meeting, monthly meeting for the board of director meeting. It's recorded, it's televised, live, but we don't have the online Zoom type participation. It's very difficult to manage. And it creates a little bit of problematic interaction. I think we've seen a few times now.
Yeah.
So we would go back to, I would recommend we go back to the format of just live broadcasting, recording, and live participation, pending any other pandemics.
Right, I agree.
I have a question about that. If a director was not available for that meeting, does that mean we would have to go back to the phone-in? Or that we could still do a Zoom-in for the director?
We would still follow the requirements that are in state law for directors' participation remotely and all the rules, the new rules associated with that.
Okay. So presumably, we might have a Zoom just for one meeting because the director's away.
For that individual, right, or individuals.
Or our attorney, I would assume, too.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, is there any public comment on Rob's report? All right. Next up is Aviation and Community Services Report.
Just a couple comments, as Rob mentioned, it was an all hands across the entire staff and our contractors, et cetera, to get runway 0220 open. Had a great ceremony. We got a lot of comments, or not comments, but page opens from that. Lots of outreach, as I mentioned in our report over the past month, and even before that, reference home basing, Fly Quiet, Fly Safe. And operations, and when you look at the numbers, we're down in October. Part of that is probably due to October runway 0220 was still down. So I think that's a natural correlation of with the cross runway closed with some of the crosswinds. I don't think anything magical happened. I think for the past couple of months, traffic's been down, probably due to the 0220 being closed, and then just opened on the 16th. In terms of noise comments, down a little bit. I don't know if that was because of operations were down as well, not dramatically so, but down a little bit. Those are the highlights, pending any questions.
Questions?
Nope.
I just have a real minor question. Have we heard from any pilots on 220 whether the displaced crown has been weird for anybody, or is it?
So I've asked numerous pilots, probably half dozen pilots that say you can't notice it.
Thank you.
So, but a number of pilots have both mentioned it, and I've asked pilots that fly regularly and can't notice it. High time pilots.
Great. Okay, any public comment on aviation? All right, Kelly is next with board financials.
Just want to go over a few highlights from October. As Jeff actually just mentioned, on the operations front, lower operations also meant lower fuel sales in October. Our total revenue is $16.9 million year to date. We're about $4 million under budget. 2.5 of that due to the FBO services, which we have been fighting all year, and then 1.9 in other income, which is really due to the grant timing. But last week we received an additional draw for $3 million, so we're catching up to the budget on that for the 220 AIP 46 project. Our total expenses are $10.3 million. We're 2.2 under budget, and that leaves us with net income of 6.5, about $2 million under budget. And then at the end of my staff report, there's just some updates on capital projects, and you'll see a lot more in the completed column, which is very exciting. We're getting things done around here, which is really amazing, and juggling all of the things but getting stuff done at the same time, which is great. Quick update on our investments. The rates has started to rise for the CDs that we had with Wells Fargo, so we sold off the really, really, really low sad ones, and have some much better ones now, which is really exciting. We're nothing lower than 4.9%, which is great. And then an update quick on our property management system, that what was called Civics, but we're now kind of referring to it as ABRM system, where we house all the property management, hangar tenant leasing, OBL, and all that. We're live with the billing side of it, working through some issues on the payment side, working with Express Bill Pay, our old payment provider, and we should have that online and ready to rock by probably this time next month, I would say, if not sooner. And and I gave you a copy of the annual report, so you'll see this come out each year. This was my first foray after the 2022 audit, and kind of a year-end synopsis of how we did. Once that comes out, and then put it together into a document like this, which will be out on the website. So if you have any questions, let me know. Just kind of showing how we did, and as the years go by now, we'll have more data and information to put into this. So this was the first year, so it's kind of in its infancy stage. But and thank you again for all your help and feedback with the budget.
All right.
Questions?
I do, but I'll go last.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a quick question, because we had some conversation about a metric that would be related between operations and fuel sales. Have we made any movement on so that for example, when we see fuel sales down, that we have a correlation to operations also being down, or vice versa, or if they
We can add that in for sure.
Yeah, we talked about that internally. I think the three of us here have talked about that. We don't have a hard scientific one yet to share. There's no industry standard, but we are discussing what that might look like as far as number of operations versus fuel sales for the two different fuel types that we have.
Okay.
Give you some metric, kind of give you
Yeah.
some idea of what's happening based on operations and its correlation to fuel sales.
Yeah, and I think especially given the major change that we've just made in the distribution of avgas to the full serve model, which, thank you for that on behalf of all of, but it would be interesting to kind of like see where, like, what we're doing in terms of fuel sales for that, so we can decide if we need to make a change to
Right.
something there. Thank you.
Thanks for the feedback. Yep.
Mary?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rick. I'll go
Oh,
last.
Rick has something. Okay.
What's that? Are we on the last item?
No.
No, we're still
No,
on.
I don't. Sorry.
Okay, I do. I have a couple quick questions. Kelly, we've been talking loosely about separating the property tax by county. Can you do that on these reports?
And the staff report?
Yeah, not necessarily your summary, but on this colorful thing that you send us? Or that's.
It's on the first tab, it's separated out.
It is? Well, on this one, it simply says property tax revenue, 6.7 million.
Yep, on the first part of it, it
Right.
should be in there.
On this one, top of the page.
Yep, yeah, it's on the one with the pink and the green.
Can we get it on this one, on this spreadsheet?
Which one?
This
Sure.
one right here. Just, I like the detail on it. I hear what you're saying, but I like the detail. That was number one. Number two, you mentioned, and I just want to clarify this for anyone who's listening, that we're $2 million under budget in revenue, but we're not losing $2 million. We're making $4 million instead of 6.
We're 4 million under budget in revenue, but we saved 2.2 in expenses.
So we're not losing money, is the bottom line.
No,
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. We're not in the hole.
absolutely not.
We're just not making as much as we anticipated in budget a year ago.
We're just under budget.
Right, okay, so in all these pages, there's all sorts of different summaries, and I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just wondering, where are we year-to-date with net operating income or loss?
6.5 million, which is 2 million under budget.
So we've made 6.5 million more than we've spent.
Net income.
Right. So I'm going back to, why don't we fund some of those capital projects that are under $2 million? Well, we've got almost, what, $8 or $9 million in tax revenue here? I'm gonna keep banging that drum. I know it's not specific on the agenda.
Isn't that
No.
the 311? I thought that was.
It was, but we have still close to $2 million in unfunded projects this year. And plenty of money to do it. I know there's lots of more discussion. Maybe we can put that on the agenda. Oh, we're not back till January. Anyway, I'm gonna keep banging that drum.
Noted.
So the money's still in the bank account next year as well. So as we get into those conversations in January at the next board meeting, addressing policy 311, we can continue to have that conversation.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point for my fellow brethren over here.
And Teresa, this is the page, the very first page of the financials in the board book. That's got the breakdown
Yes, I see that.
and then net income down there at the bottom.
But this one that requires a microscope, it's not broken down on that one. So it's simple, easy.
Okay.
Just, well, it's under this financial, just if, because she brought this up, I mean, and we're going to be looking at all the different community benefit programs, just maybe we need to do that as a workshop rather than in a board meeting. And so maybe a doodle might be appropriate in early January or sometime to kind of put our arms around that. And given everybody's schedule, a doodle takes some time. If, that would be something to consider, because that's definitely a workshop item and to talk where we're trying to go with this.
Yeah, I would even suggest maybe if we use the time before the board meeting, pending any other closed session items that take up time, that we could start maybe at 2 o'clock or something as a workshop ahead, or 1 o'clock. The January board meeting date, if that sounds reasonable now, it might be, and I say board meeting dates because I know you mostly have committed to the day in advance already, rather than trying to find another date, which is often very difficult. If that makes sense, that might be a good approach, even on the same board meeting date earlier in the day, whether it's late in the morning or early afternoon, to address policy 311. Because I agree, Mary and Teresa, I think there's a lot there to discuss still
Yeah.
that we haven't addressed yet.
I agree.
It's January 24th.
January 24th. if
Is our
that
board meeting?
Yep.
Is our board meeting. So we could target ahead of that, either late morning or early afternoon, to discuss policy 311 as a standalone item, in a workshop kind of fashion. Because I think it's right. There's a lot to discuss there. A lot for us to present as far as methodologies of tracking and prioritizing. And so I think there's a lot of work.
You're talking about the morning or right before?
Right.
Correct.
Probably at least 2 hours, I would say, of discussion, workshopping of concepts around policy 311 expansion.
Yeah.
Or further definition. Right.
You know, I get the point that we're committing to that day, but I think it's going to be more than 2 hours. And when you add a board meeting subject on top of it, I think we're all pretty fried by whatever time. I see a benefit of either doing it the 23rd or the 20, one day either side, but that's just me, because I think it's going to be more than 2 hours.
I could send a doodle of various dates in January, just statistically speaking, like in the last 5 years, it's been really difficult to get you guys on a date other than the board meeting.
If I could-
But I could offer options.
My suggestion is, let's see how far we can get as staff work towards that day of the board meeting, even if it's 2 hours or 3 hours, and then we build from there. I don't think we have to decide anything in January, but that's the beginning of a conversation, perhaps. And based on how that conversation goes, we can see how much more time we need to schedule to expand the conversation.
Great.
And my only other request would be getting this ahead of the board meeting, because it's hard for me to try and absorb all of this data during the board meeting.
Sure.
Did you produce this?
I worked with our PR people to do it, yeah.
Good. It's really good. It is good.
Yeah.
It's
There's
more of a
no,
color, it's more of a, it's just repackaging of the product you've already approved.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
all from 2022, so there's no changes to any of it. It's just a document reflecting it.
Are you going to be doing this for 2023 then?
Absolutely,
As well.
every year, yep.
Great.
Awesome. Nice job. Okay, any more questions for Kelly? Nope. Is there any public comment on the finances? All right, future agenda priorities and meeting management. I think we've all read that. Did anybody attend a conference? This one? No? Meeting review and direction to staff.
I think the two items, maybe three, continue to follow up on our land exchange with TTSA. I'll continue to update the board on email outside the board meeting on our progress on that. The second one is the item we just discussed, is our workshop developing for a policy 311 discussion in January 24th, initially same day as a board meeting, separate workshop type meeting. The third is following up on how we can report on operation and fuel sales, kind of statistics or parallels of quantifiable methodologies to review in the future that Director Diamond brought up, and then the points Director Odette brought up as well, certainly.
Great. Does anybody think he missed anything?
Pardon me?
Does anybody think he missed anything?
No,
Sounds like
no, I have one more
plenty.
quick
Oh, you have a-
request, but not of Rob.
Okay.
Any chance, Lauren, you can send me calendar invites for, I have none in January, no meeting in January, apparently.
Yes, and that's on my December, that's what I send to everyone, yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, item 20, special action item.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. I move that next year, that Rick Stevens be president of the board and Kat Rolfe be vice president of the board. That is my motion.
I love that. I'll second it.
Any public comment? Roll call.
Director Rolfe,
Yes.
Director Odette,
Yes.
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Hetherington.
I'm going to abstain because it feels like we did not have a discussion before a motion was made.
Director Stevens,
Yes.
motion carries.
Would you like to have a discussion now?
No. Kind of moot.
Okay.
Can we also decide on who's going to be the internal control auditor? It is previously held by Rick Stevens this past year.
Yeah, Rick's done it for 2 years, huh?
I move that we nominate Mary.
I'll second that also.
How about you, Kat? You want to do it? You've done it. I've done it. Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, great. Thanks. I move
Our
that we
motion's
make
not
Kat
carrying.
I can go visit Bernie,
Bernie.
the new Bernie's Mountain Dog in Kelly's office.
Cool.
Yeah. We'll have a puppy.
do we-
Second her motion as well.
Do we technically have to vote on the
That's-
motion
it's
that we
on
had
the
a second on?
It,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I
Oh,
recommend.
yeah.
Go ahead, Josh. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, just if it's possible, the maker and the person who seconded just agree to the modified motion. If there isn't, then we can do a substitute motion, but it's just additional procedural hoops.
I would agree to the modified motion.
Same.
Yeah, I've never had one before. I don't think so either.
Whatever.
We have it on the agenda that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is, yeah.
Director
Yes.
Director Odette,
Yes.
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Hetherington,
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, board member announcements. Does anybody have any announcements?
I will go. My announcement, because this is our last meeting of the year, is I just want to thank my fellow board members and our senior staff. I think that we're firing on all cylinders now, and that was not always the case, and I accept that I had a big responsibility in that. And I'm glad that we are where we are now and that we are doing stuff and getting stuff done and reacting to our own strategic plan. And I'm confident that we're going to do great things next year, and I'm encouraged to see where we take it. So thank you to all of you and to all of you and to all the rest of the staff at the airport for just continuing to be awesome.
It's been a big year.
Yeah.
It has. Yep, thank you for that. Okay, if there's nothing else,
Adjourn.
Second?
Director Rolfe,
yes.
Director Odette,
Yes.
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Hetherington,
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned 5:55.